Okay, so thank you. So my name is Zuzanna Duracinska. I'm from Prague. I'm from nationalseer.cz. It's kind of weird because I cannot see you because there's such a strong light. So I'm going to talk about crisis a little bit. Thank you. Crisis that happened in 2013, and while I was preparing the presentation, I was thinking whether it was crisis or not. So maybe you can reflect now what would be for your organization a crisis, and then when I will talk about our crisis, from our point of view, it was crisis. So think about it. My presentation will be divided in two parts. First part I'm going to talk about the situation before, especially the role of our CIRT had before the crisis. So before 2013, of course we continue in our role, but it changed a lot. And then my second part of the presentation will be what happened after the crisis, what have changed and what was created and how we're working now in Czech Republic. What is the communication and cooperation like in between the operators. So to start, who we are. Basically the national series is operated by Czech domain registry. It's not unique. There are many series like that that are operated by domain registry, for example, domain in Austria, I think same is in Finland, etc. So basically a registry is getting huge. It was created in 1998 with only 2 people there. Now there are over 80 employees and really our focus is getting big because we already know how the registry works, how we're working with domains, but since we're not for profit, all the profit we have from the domains we're trying to devote to research, education, and more development. And that's the reason, for example, why the National CERT is funded actually by this organization. So in Czech Republic, we have approximately 10 million people there, maybe a little more than that, and we have over 1,200,000 domains registered, which is a very huge number. If I can compare it with, for example, Slovakia, the Slovak domain is not that popular in Slovakia. There are a lot of domains with .eu, .org, .com, etc. In Czech Republic, it's really .cz. Everybody's got .cz, and we're very focused on security. That's why over 460,000 domains are signed by the NSEC. Just the number of projects we have, when you look at it, maybe some of you heard of Project Touris, which is a Soho router, which we developed from the hardware side. We run it on OpenWRT, so huge project for us. We have our own academy where we are doing lectures. We have our own research lab. One probably I will mention is Jak na Internet. Probably the same in Polish, I guess, how on the internet. So that was super popular. It was just like 2-minute videos on how internet works, what is DNS, what is IP address, how it translates, etc. It was for end users. It was broadcasted before the news on TV. They're usually start at 7:30. You know all the news that people are watching when they come from work. So that was very popular, and that really helped to educate more our users in Czech Republic. Our team is all the other, not all the other, of course we're unique, everybody's unique, but we deal with the agenda as all the other national certs. But what we put a lot of focus on are working groups and cooperation and collaboration with internet providers, because of course, is somebody here from CERT, from like national CERT or CERT? Okay, so the situation, we don't have executive powers, so we're trying to deal with incidents that operators in between cannot deal with. So we already know which ISPs are communicating well, so which care about what's going on in their network, etc. We know who are not answering, so that's the way it is. It's always like that. So we're trying to put more focus on collaboration with internet service providers and operators in Czech Republic. And one of the things we established were working groups. Very informal, twice a year we meet with them. It's something like that, talking about incidents that happened, about cases. If there's something going on in security, for example, if the new law was coming out, we discussed that. So very informal. Then the crisis happened. It was in 2013, March. I was already working in CZNIC. I wasn't part of security team, and for me personally, it was very exciting because I didn't have to deal with that, of course. So, DDoS attacks. Regular stuff today, but it started on Monday, like regular Monday, when the most popular news media in Czech Republic were shut down. And what was very interesting about these DDoSs were it happened in two waves. Always morning, they started at 9:30, 10, 10:30. Then we had a lunch break, and then it continued at 1, 1:30. So for 4 days. So first day, really the biggest media. So you go online, read the regular news, you read every day. It wasn't available. There were like 6 or 7 of them, the biggest one. So of course, after the first wave, there were a lot of articles of what's going on. Nobody knew what's going on. Everybody started contacting us because they could tell it's the same problem everywhere. Okay, that's the morning session. It came in the afternoon, so more focus. People were concerned, like all the operators, nobody knew what's going on because we didn't know who's behind the attacks. Then Tuesday. That was the search engine. Just to explain again, usually people use Google. In Czech Republic, people use Seznam as well. It's like 50-50, 50%, 50%. So I believe the Google is not number one only in, I believe, China, North Korea, and Czech Republic or something like that. So Seznam, search engine wasn't available. Again, morning wave and afternoon wave. You can imagine that on Tuesday, everybody was concerned who's going to be next. It was funny because even in our organization, our bosses were starting asking who is responsible for that, how much traffic can we handle, etc. Okay, Wednesday, banks, internet banking, not available. Again, morning wave, afternoon wave. So the same scenario, same thing, and you can imagine that by Wednesday, of everybody knew what is DDoS attack, which is somehow weird because they still remember. On Thursday, there was mobile operators. And you can imagine when when we were talking about mobile operators, the thing that wasn't functioning, for example, in Czech Republic, in Prague, you can buy tickets for public transportation via SMS. So that wasn't working. Then the registration of new cars was somehow connected with, of course, mobile operator. That wasn't working. So again, let's imagine what was Thursday like. The whole Czech Republic was like waiting who's gonna be next on Friday. Fortunately, it didn't happen. So what was the attack like? The attack, all the traffic was coming from the Russian network, and even though we were trying to contact them, operators were trying to contact them, you can imagine that we didn't get any answer. But in fact, the attacks weren't that strong because it affected only end devices like web servers, so only end networks. It didn't attack any infrastructure, so all the other processes were running fine. And the other thing is that the traffic was coming through peering center, nix.cz, which was a good thing because on Monday we could tell who is behind the attacks, and I think that by Wednesday many operators, how to say it, so all the traffic that was coming from abroad, they blocked all the traffic from abroad. So on the one side it was good, it was coming through peering center. On the other side, the attack was a little faster since I believe that most of you understand how peering works. The idea is that the data doesn't go from tier one, I mean from abroad, but there is one exchange point in a country or like a couple exchange points where the data are exchanged. So that was our crisis. So maybe now you can reflect. So from your point of view, would that be crisis? I don't know, nothing actually happened, just a couple services weren't available, but very important services like banking, mobile operators, etc. So Now let's continue what has changed in Czech Republic. Nix.cz, the peering center I already mentioned, got involved a little. So it's just a peering center, a neutral peering platform with over 130 networks connected. So most of the networks are connecting to Nix.cz. What they established, it's called Phoenix. So I don't know if you know the Phoenix, it's the idea, the bird, that, you know, the bird Phoenix here. So what is it? It's just like a club, very informal, free of charge. Everybody, all the operators can join. There are some, of course, I'm going to talk about conditions if you want to join the club. And the idea is secure VLAN. So in case of attack, you're going to exchange the data only with networks you trust. And it's the island mode, so that's the last resort. Phoenix is put in the effect only in case of crisis, only in DDoS attacks, only on DOS attacks. So we didn't have to, luckily, start the island mode since 2013. What is the role of Nix.cz? The good thing that, I believe that that's a good thing, is they're neutral. So they are not saying who can join, who cannot join. They're just like neutral arbiter who somehow rule it, or when we have a meeting as Phoenix group, they're responsible, etc. And now I'm going to entering conditions. So if you're operator or ISP or whatever, now you can look at the conditions and think how many of them, or whether you can join Phoenix at this point. What is very important is, of course, 24/7. But no IVR. IVR is that thing when you call there, and they're going to say, for English, press 2. If you want that kind of service, press 3, etc. So we really want actual person behind that contact over there. The other thing is, network that you want to join has to use BCP38. It's about packet filtering. So I believe you might know it from, for example, DDoS amplification. It means that packets that have other address than yours cannot leave the network from the IP range that you have. Then there is protection from DNS amplification, from NTP amplification. So you cannot run open resolvers in your network. They're unmanaged, of course. You cannot have vulnerable NTP service in your networks. All the domains have to be signed by DNSSEC, another thing. So a lot of criteria are on the network layer, but for example, DNSSEC is just like added value for that. This project and Nix.cz now went to Slovakia. They established peering over there, and they wanna start Phoenix in Slovakia as well. And for example, that's the difference because .sk national domain does not support DNSSEC, so that had to be changed a little. So not all the criteria can fit all the networks in every state. The other very important thing is that all the networks that would like to join Phoenix, they have to have agreement with the customers that ban them from doing malicious activities in network, like spamming, stuff like that. For example, in .cz, if you want to register .cz domain, you have to agree with terms, where is mentioned that you cannot, if there's a malicious activity on a domain, we can shut it down, actually. So that's important for the networks. Of course, use both IPv4, IPv6 addresses, and the most important thing for us, as CERT, that we really wanted to have that condition there, is that you should have CERT, at least with the status of listed in trusted introducer. If you know trusted introducer, how many of you know trusted introducer? So it's basically European organization run by Jean, we're academic networks, and it's some kind of contact list of SEER teams. They're official established SEER teams. And there are a couple statuses. You can be listed, which is on the lowest level. Then you can be accredited. Then you have to, when you're accredited team, you have to apply, you have to have RFC, I believe that's 2350. So a lot of information about SEER team. You have to use PGP keys, etc. and then the last that is certified. So at least with the status listed. So what has changed? 2004, we had one cert team. You can look 2013, that was the DDoS attacks. That's in 2013, the idea of Phoenix, or that like group of trusted operators, was established, and the number of cert teams has grown a lot. So basically, I have a couple more applications now waiting to be approved because more operators want to have cert team. So cert team, you can think, okay, it's just a cert team, but a lot of operators already have cert teams, so they're dealing with incidents and everything, but the idea behind the official cert team is that your contact information are very easily reached by other teams. You use PGP keys, so in case we want to send you some sensitive information, we can use our PGP key. So that's the idea behind it. So now we have, I believe that's 2,000 teams, which is one of the most teams in Europe. I believe that Netherlands and England's got probably the same number of official cert teams. So what has changed? Working groups. Working groups were popular before, but after the crisis, after 2014, more people are participating in working groups. More people are willing to present their case studies. More people trust us, so they share incidents with us and they ask whether we have encountered the same incident or whether we know about other networks that have the same problem. I can, just to compare, before we had on working groups 20, 30, 40 people. Now it's still over 100. So they're really willing to participate. Of course, number of cert teams. For operators that have cert teams, for us, the cooperation with them is way easier because we know they do respond to incidents, they deal with incidents. When we send them incident with the favor, they can solve it. It's still in the range of a couple hours, so that's very good for us. Of course, Phoenix project, so that little club. Of course, there are networks or operators that have problem with some criteria. And just for you to imagine, now there are like 9 or 10 networks in Phoenix. They all have to agree with the criteria to join Phoenix. And the Nix.cz is just a platform that writes the rules, etc. So it's up to these operators to agree what kind of conditions you should how to say it? You should fulfill. Let's say fulfill, and so it's very informal, very informal. And there are still a lot of operators that, for example, have problem with BCP38, or they have problem with peering, so they don't want to peer with other networks. And of course, there are a little more conditions than I have mentioned. For example, you do need to separate connections to Nix.cz, so if one will fail, you still have another one that's working. So it's up to these operators to decide. And act on cybersecurity. It's in effect since January 1st this year, and we actually have law on cybersecurity. That is saying what is incident, security incident, what should National CERT do, what GovCERT should do, who belongs to critical infrastructure. So basically, if you know ISO 27701 about protection information, it's all there. So if you're a critical infrastructure, now it's in a law that you should be in accordance with this ISO 2071. Who is behind the attacks? We still don't know. So there are a lot of discussion that maybe it was from the government, because thanks to it, the law on cybersecurity, of course, went very easily through Parliament and everywhere. So maybe you can imagine that a lot of business with anti-DDoS solutions expanded in Czech Republic, and everybody wants one, everybody wants to be protected. And in all the presentation for anti-DDoS protection, they're saying that we had such a huge attacks in March 2013, and that can affect you, and etc. So we don't know. Maybe it's good that we had such a crisis. Maybe it's good that people now know a little more about it. Maybe it's good because a lot of things changed. Even in the organization, from my perspective, there's more support for IT and for security. So maybe this kind of crisis was a good thing for Czech Republic. I'm not sure you can maybe reflect on it. And if I were behind the attacks, I would tell myself that I made a good job maybe. I'm not behind the attacks. So that would be from my side, and I believe that you would have some questions, or I will have to leave in an hour or so, so if you have some time, just feel free to talk to me and we can talk about it. So maybe I'll ask a question. So I still have time, I guess. You got questions? Yeah.
Okay, perhaps you attended the previous presentations where we debated who should in fact coordinate the CSRT or CERT teams in Poland. Do you have any entity in Czech Republic who coordinates this?
Yes, so in Czech Republic now it's National Security Authority, so basically NSA, we're trying to not to say NSA. But so it's them. Now it's in an act on cybersecurity, so it's a law that defines what is the role of national CERT, who runs governmental CERT, etc. And yes, so we have the authority for that. They're responsible. For example, in the law there is a thing about crises like that. So when the security, it's like Security Council of the state can be called in, and when what can decide on, etc. So really, to be honest, the whole preparation for the Act on Cybersecurity, you can imagine that there have to be a lot of agreement in what state wants and what operators can handle. And it somehow ended as very vague, as very, very general document. But on the other hand, it defined a lot of responsibilities, especially for those that really handle critical infrastructure like energy, and I don't know, water supplies, etc. So yes, we do have authority, and it was established in this Act on Cybersecurity. It was an easy job to agree on anything in this act. So we were, for example, these working groups, we discussed for over a half year. We had 3 meetings just on Act on Cybersecurity. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't peaceful.
My question concerns audits. Have you included audits of, let's say, the CERTs and the organizations that take part in this cybersecurity effort? Do you have it included in the act itself?
Okay, so Act on Cybersecurity is one thing, that's the law, and there is control. There is control on that. It's still very, very unknown, because when you have over 100 now, or over 100 of organizations that do belong to critical infrastructure, and how you're going to audit them, how you're going to see whether they had incidents and they reported it. So the thing about control is very hard. And for example, in Phoenix project, since there are just 10 operators, we really rely on personal relations, on regular meetings, etc. So we trust each other. And on the other hand, we can check whether they're fulfilling the criteria, and it is checked. It is checked. Thank you.
Thank you very much.